Hello and welcome. This is Mayank Shekhar from Midday Newspaper. With me is, Nori, first of all, and of course Poppy, which is Markella, Megan, and the creator of Rings of Power, Mr. J D Payne. You know what? You just had lunch, so I'm going to first ask you the most simple question, which is the fact of you were cast on this show and you were the first person to be in the show. Is that correct? Is that true? That you were the first one picked up for the cast of Rings of Power? Would that be correct?
Was it true?
Not the very first.
So, yeah.
No, but early on, definitely.
I think, yeah, it might have been the second.
I mean, was it the very first? You know, it's been 6 years now. It's really hard to remember.
It was super early.
Yeah,
it was,
but it was very early.
on.
Yeah.
And did you guys become best friends with time? Because that is what you play. I mean, you're really cute on the show, of course. Did you guys become best friends? And no, not really.
Well, we're very close.
Imagine, no.
No.
That's the headline I was looking for anyway. So.
We're very close. We get on very, very well.
Yeah.
It's very fortunate to work.
And you're of course from Australia, right?
Yes.
Markella, and where exactly are you from, Megan?
I'm from London.
And both of you obviously have very different accents, but they have to match when you're in a world
Yeah.
which is while mythical, but it has to be true to how you speak. Is that something you worked on? Like give yourselves a particular accent to speak in?
Yeah, I mean, we worked with an incredible dialect coach, Lee McPherson, who really was kind of created these dialects, and it's not one or the other. It's based on it has a light Irish lilt, but it's a half-foot English. So we just worked on that and tried to make sure it sounded as consistent as possible.
That's globish, that the whole world can understand,
Yes.
I'm guessing. And was it intimidating for you to be part of a show like this, given how huge the show is in terms of the viewership, in terms of the money that's been invested in terms of where it's coming from? It's pedigree, right?
It was. I mean, I was just very excited. I wasn't hugely aware of Tolkien's work before this show.
Interesting, you say
yeah,
that.
and so this show has been my education, and it's only sort of been while I've been on this show and been fortunate to keep working on the show and doing all of this press and meeting everyone and seeing how it resonates with people, that's where my real understanding and depth of that understanding really sits.
I'm pretty sure you're still learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness.
That's the big thing, right?
Yeah.
With Tolkien, you can
Mr.
always
Payne.
be learning, yes.
I mean, what you were getting into is really a world that's going to look at something like this, because I think the fans of Tolkien, whether it's two trilogies, is not just fans. I mean, it's a cult. It's almost a religion. Was that something that was intimidating to you as a person who's walking into this, and of course you're going to face that cult back at you? Is that something that you're thinking about a lot?
I mean, I take it all as an expression of people's love for the work. And I love the work as well. I come at it for truly from a place of being a fan.
Right.
And I think the work speaks to people's soul. So yes, it has that sort of spiritual element to it. And it's rare amongst modern properties, I feel like. So no, I think we get really excited at the fact that fans love this.
Right.
And it sets a bar high for what we're trying to achieve, and we put our heart, mind, and soul into doing so every single day.
Right, because you're looking at like a $1 billion investment into 5 seasons of this show. And do you have the whole arc in mind when you think about it when you start? Like,
so first of all, those figures
it's not $1 billion?
Yeah, you should talk to Amazon. They'll talk to you about the money. But I mean,
right.
But yes, we have a 50-hour TV show that has been mapped out.
It's already been mapped out.
Well, and it's sort of like if you're doing a road trip across the country, you sort of know which cities you're going to hit along the way, which national parks. But there's also room for exploration. You know, when you find storylines you want to go a little deeper in, or things that might be a little shorter. There's room to kind of improvise some as you go along.
Right. Is it true that you actually have the last scene with you ready for the final season already?
Very much, yeah. We have something in mind for what we want to do, yeah.
So that's what we mean by the map, isn't it? But when you're creating characters, you're creating a world that also exists, but also you have to bring in new elements. What goes through that process? It's not too many people have done that in cinema or screen history, right? Where would you pick from? Like, would there be elements of Shakespeare? Would there be elements of mythologies across the world? Is that something like, are there references you can think of, Mr. Payne, that?
Sure. Well, I mean, and there's references at different points. There's the writing process. There's also the design process, the production process, and the editing process. So at each of those phases, yes, we look to all kinds of different.
But in terms of writing process and characters, like the reason I'm asking you this is because, for instance, if you were to look at mythologies, I'm deeply. I mean, where I come from, which is India, has a very deep,
very rich, yeah.
Rich. Is that something you looked at ever?
At the Ramayana or at the like?
Is there something in mythology that you saw that could fit into the characters you were creating?
I mean,
are you aware?
I'm less familiar with a lot of Indian mythology, but certainly like Northern European mythology, and we'll often look to sort of what inspired Tolkien as well. He was deeply sort of steeped in the mythologies of the ages, and so sometimes we'll go back to those stories. And sort of look at what was it that was inspiring him, because that's really what we try to do. We take these tiny little cells that he sort of left us in the appendices, and we'll try to grow them into these fully fledged living beings. And to do that, some of it just comes from our own life and experience and creative point of view. Sometimes it comes from things we've read, but certainly all the world's artistic creations are influential to us.
Well, final question, Mr. Payne. I mean, you also worked. I mean, the Tolkien estate had a lot to do with this project as well, and you were also working with the grandson of JRR. What was his contribution like to the process?
Oh, Simon's wonderful. We were very fortunate to have him as a consultant on the series, and we met with him early on when they were first deciding on who was going to be the showrunner.
Right.
And then each season we will write a document that gives a summary of what we're planning on doing in more detail that season, and we'll share it with the Tolkien estate, and they will give us back very thoughtful reflections. And sometimes it'll say, like, in my grandfather's work, there was this little corner of the Legend of Arryn that I've always thought could be more deeply explored. Have you guys thought about that? Sometimes they'll say, oh, what you're doing here feels like it could be promising, but maybe if you tweak it this way or that way, it could be better. And so we welcome those and really just value the contribution of the estate, both of that process and then throughout. So we've been very fortunate to have a very close working relationship with them.
Well, we just got started, right? Literally like one season, and then second season, 2 episodes done. Well, all the best, and congratulations, of course. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.